welcome to the ultimate pit stop here, live in Austin, Texas. Yes, I like the rowdiness of that. I like the cheering. I like the vibe. Get into it. That's exactly what we do in the Chequered flag, and this is why today is so special. So thank you very much for joining us here at what is an amazing venue. Did everyone like the car outside? Yeah, thought you might. This is the first live recording of the Chequered Flag podcast. So you are in for a treat, and hopefully you will enjoy this whole process. We have some amazing guests for you as well. So I am Jenny Gow. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you. And I want to introduce our panel. Hopefully you've written them some amazing questions, grilling the grid, as I say. So we have with us the BBC's 5 Live lead F1 commentator, Harry Benjamin. We have a former McLaren mechanic. He's an author, he's a broadcaster, he's an event host and speaker. There's nothing he can't do. He is Mark Priestley, and alongside him, please welcome to the stage Autosport magazine editor-in-chief. If you've listened to the podcast, you will know all of these people. It is Rebecca Clancy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a thrilling lineup for you, as you can see, ready to take your questions as well. Special guest, you can see the seat. It's not just there for staging. We actually have someone else coming, maybe more than one person. You'll just have to wait and see. So I want to start off with how excited we all are to be here in Austin live. Are you guys excited? And Harry, you're an Austin virgin. How is it? Is it good?
You know what? It's actually been a bit rough to start with. I did stack it on the way here on one of those electric scooters. Well, nearly stacked it. A hell of a save from me. I think Mark can agree for that.
Did you commentate yourself?
I'm constantly commentating, always. That's what we do. That's how you stay sharp. No, I'm loving it. I mean, yeah, literally got in yesterday. And it's pretty cool. I mean, I've not seen a lot of it yet, but so far, loving it. Bit colder than I thought it would be, though. So, you know, a bit colder. But apart from that, all good.
Warmer than when we left England.
Well, yeah, there is also that.
And everyone here is going, it's been so warm. We're just pleased it's cool. When it comes to Austin, Mark, you are not inexperienced here. You've been here many times as a mechanic and now as a broadcaster. It's just one of those places that's very special, isn't it?
It really is. You know, it's we were just saying earlier on, it's changed the game in Formula One, this event, because it came in as the first one of the Formula One races which really staged a massive event around the race with concerts and, you know, the whole city embraces it, doesn't it? And I think that's changed the way other races around the world now look at how they, you know, stage these events too. So it's been a game changer. And I think everyone loves coming here. You put on a wonderful show for us. Everyone's incredibly welcoming. Food's great. You know, it's just brilliant. We all love it. We genuinely love coming here.
Rebecca, I mean, F1 has waited years to crack America. Is this it? This is finally 3 races each year. I mean, it's a big thing here.
It's absolutely massive. And just to say what Mark was mentioning, it is an incredible city. It's probably my favourite race weekend because, as you all know, the track, it's only half an hour outside of town. You get to actually stay in the city. You get to really enjoy it. I personally am a fan of breakfast burritos. I had the best one ever this morning. So yes, the food is amazing. With Texas, with Austin in particular, you really understand the impact that Netflix, in particular the Drive to Survive documentary, has had. Because I remember coming here in my first year was 2017, and you could walk into any restaurant, you could book your hotel at a week's notice. It was never a bother. I remember talking to the drivers about it, and they could walk around town and no one knew who they were. Daniel Ricciardo, who? And Netflix happened, and then obviously we were in the pandemic. But when the world finally opened up again, and when Austin finally opened up again, it was bananas. You couldn't, for love nor money, get into a restaurant. I remember walking in down on South Congress into a couple of restaurants, and they looked at me like I was mad. You don't have a reservation? It's like, no, I'm sorry. And hotels, you're having to book 6 months in advance. And it does very much feel now, with 450,000 people through the gates over the weekend, that F1 has cracked America.
And Mark, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? They've tried it almost everywhere, it feels like. But what has been your favourite track to either watch or work in when it comes to America?
Whenever anyone asks me what my favourite track is, I always think there's two ways to answer it, right? You can always think about the actual track, which track around the world presents the best racing, that's a good way to look at it. Or you can look at it, what's the best night out after you've been to work? And I always think Austin has a bit of both. It's got a wonderful racetrack and a good night out. So for me, that really puts it up there. But actually America has 3 really strong events. Vegas, we sort of saw that for the first time last year. We know there were some teething troubles, obviously, at the start of the weekend. But actually, the race was great, and I think it's got the makings of a really solid event. Miami is developing into something that's becoming a real centre point, and this one, as we said earlier, has just got a bit of everything. So I think we have cracked America. Netflix has been a big part of that, hasn't it? But I think the sport and the way that Liberty Media are now running the sport, with very much a focus on expanding into new territories, have really done a wonderful job, and you've got to give them credit for that.
And it's such an exciting time, isn't it, Harry, for the sport itself? It seems to be in a golden era again.
Yeah, who'd have thought it? I remember literally in Bahrain speaking on our review podcast at the end of the race, the longest season ever in Formula One. It's going to feel long as well. And Max Verstappen's going to cruise to the title and it's going to be super easy. And how on earth have we ended up in this situation where we're coming into most races where, okay, Norris and Verstappen are fighting, but actually, you've got Mercedes up there taking a win. You've got Ferrari as well. You've got, close to maybe 6 or 7 drivers at some point being in with the hunt. And the fact is that we can turn up to a race weekend and not really know what's going to happen, which we've got to cherish and hold on to for as long as possible, because that's what makes this sport so amazing. We do see long forms of dominance. It's not the first time we've seen it, and we'll see it again as well, and we'll complain about it as soon as it comes along. That's just how it happens. But right now, what have we got? 6 races left to go, 3 sprints, 52 points. It's a lot of points between Norris and Verstappen, but it's possible, mathematically so. Driver changes, strong partnerships being formed for the next couple of years. It's going to be great. And
also, don't forget, the current cars effectively carry over into next year. So this amazing competitive order that we have right now, I don't see it changing for 2025. So 26 is a whole new ball game, but for 25, we should have more of the same, which is so exciting.
I do just want to say as well, though, that while we talk about all of our sort of journeys through here, that a lot of people will know Jenny Gow's story and how almost 2 years since you had that stroke. And the comeback is remarkable. We were saying earlier, this is your first sort of long-haul trip to a racetrack. I mean, it cannot be underestimated how much Jenny has done to get back here. But how has it been for you, Jenny? Can you? We talk about the season on track, but how has it been for you off track and your recovery back?
Well, thank you, first and foremost. It's been quite emotional coming here. My taxi driver turned up at home. And he said, I haven't seen you for a couple of years. And I was like, yeah, it's 2 years since I've travelled long haul. And you're never quite sure what's going to happen. The support from the whole of the community of motorsport and the wider community has been amazing. The guys at the Chequered Flag podcast have kept me up to speed with everything that's been going on. And I've taken those 2 years to find a voice. That was the first battle. So I got my voice back, and now I'm learning to read again and write and do all of those things. So it's not been easy, I'm not going to lie. It's taken a lot of people, their help and support to get to this point. But I also decided it would be a really good idea to write a book, just as you do, with my downtime, because there was quite a lot of that. So I called it my active work therapy. So instead of just writing things for, the pointless sake, I thought, I'll give myself a deadline. I'll give myself a goal. You know only too well, having written one book and another on the way, that it just keeps you honest. So every day I had to get up, had to write 600 words, and sometimes it flew past, and other times it was a bit more troublesome. But so I've written a book. It comes out on the 7th of November.
A perfect stocking filler.
Yeah. It's ironically called How to Read F1, and I'm still battling. I can't read it, unfortunately. I've had it read back to me, and I've done the audio version, which I still don't know how I did it, but with a lot of help. But yeah, so I'm really proud, and I'm quite emotional about being back, and I couldn't have asked for a more lovely audience to share this with. And our first live podcast is like, pinch me, it's real. But thank you all.
Well done.
Well, it should not be underestimated what you've achieved so far. So and it's brilliant to have you here as well, Jenny. But
thank you.
If we come back a little bit to the on-track stuff, because that's what drives us back to Formula One every single time. And Beck, that gap at the top. Can Lando Norris win this championship?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why not? If you look at the momentum that McLaren have now, that Lando Norris have now, it absolutely looks like everything is going his way. We know Red Bull have had a few issues with the car. Max Verstappen is suddenly not very happy with the balance of that Red Bull. He's spending a lot of his weekends moaning. He doesn't like how it drives. He is suddenly absolutely delighted finishing second, a very unfamiliar position for the Dutchman. But that's what he's happened with, because he knows that Lando Norris can win this championship. And it absolutely is possible. Okay, there is that statistic where no one has ever overturned this points gap before at this stage. But you say there's 6 races to go and 3 sprints. That's a quarter of the season. It's a very, very long season. So yeah, absolutely. I think with the way that both teams are performing, I think Red Bull are an incredibly strong team, so should never be discounted. But that car isn't quite right. It doesn't feel like there's the harmony maybe within that team that we're kind of used to in previous years. So yes, I would put money on the fact that this could probably go all the way down to the wire.
Exciting, isn't it?
Is that really hopeful? Maybe I'm being hopeful. But
No,
yes.
I think that's great. And I agree with you. I think this weekend actually is going to be really sort of seminal in this, because this is really the last big weekend where people bring upgrades to the car in a season like this. And Red Bull have brought a fairly substantial upgrade to this track. They are pinning a lot of hopes on that, because if that upgrade doesn't bring the performance that they want and that they need, well then, as Beck says, McLaren, we know, have a faster car, and that will continue to be the case right until the end of the season, giving Lando a big advantage. If Red Bull can bring something this weekend that brings them a little bit closer, even if Max isn't in a position to challenge for race wins on the regular basis, he will be there and in the mix and able to get in the way of Lando's championship fight. So this particular upgrade is big, as it will be for some of the other teams that are also bringing upgrades, because the likes of Ferrari or Mercedes could equally get in the way of this championship. So the fact that it's unknown and we can't decide is brilliant, isn't it?
But the other key factor as well, other than the upgrades, is the number 2 driver of both teams.
Yep.
And I'll be careful what I say, because I know this is a bit of a Sergio Perez home race. He has a few. But I think it's safe to say he's not performing where Red Bull would like. Christian Horner's come out again and said his seat is under threat, even though he only signed a 2-year contract back in June. But McLaren have Oscar Piastri, and he has thrown his weight behind Lando Norris and said, I will back your championship.
He's not number 2, though, is he?
Well, I'm choosing my words carefully. Currently, the so-called number 2 driver. I'm sure his manager, Mark Webber, wouldn't like me saying that. But they have Oscar Piastri, and Oscar Piastri has come out publicly and said, when I'm mathematically not possible for me to win the championship, I will absolutely support Lando Norris in his campaign. It looks like we're pretty much there now. So they have Piastri in the fight, constantly on the podiums, himself winning races, able to capitalise if Lando Norris perhaps, as he has recently, had an off weekend. And I think that second driver, I'm just going to say it, I think that will also play a crucial role in this fight for the championship.
Absolutely. We'll talk more about the championship, and I'm keen to know who you think will be champion at the end of this year. But let's welcome on our first special guest. Please welcome to the stage Indy Next driver, development driver for Williams, and an all-round amazing person. It is Jamie
Chadwick.
Chadwick. Jamie, I've practiced your name so many times. I've done therapy to try and get your name right, and I still couldn't do it. Sorry.
We'll blame the name. It's fine.
Yes, absolutely.
The rest of the introduction was great, though. You didn't need to say the name.
It's nice to have you here in what is now classed as your second home, racing over here for the season. How's it been?
It's been good, yeah, second year. Obviously racing in Indy Next, which kind of takes me to sort of all sorts of different parts of the States. I really enjoyed it, actually. It's been, definitely an experience both on the racing side, but also just live side, having the opportunity to spend more time here. It does feel a little bit more like home, which is nice. And it's been very cool to experience that.
And a race winner. How was that?
Yeah, this year, securing my first victory in Indy Next was definitely a special moment, something we worked hard towards. Still more I want to achieve, but definitely kind of the first sort of tick in the kind of things I wanted to achieve this year. So that was, very special for sure.
What was that journey like? Because, I mean, Indy Next is a competitive category anyway. You know, you're moving over to stateside. It's a different system you've got to get used to as well. And, you know, some of those guys in the field are racing constantly throughout the year. So talk to us a bit more about that breakthrough suddenly standing on the top step.
Definitely. I mean, the first year was definitely a step up. And I think coming from W Series, which I had done before, you don't get a huge amount of seat time. The cars are relatively low performance. It's closer to a F4 car than anything else. You then come into something like Indy Next, which is the feeder series to the pinnacle here of IndyCar. The cars are a lot faster. The tracks are very different. The intensity is a lot higher. The level of competition is much higher. And I come in for the first race, and for sure it's a baptism. And I think we evolved quite well in our first year. We kind of progressed quite well, but it kind of goes unnoticed because little improvements in my mind, or for us as a sort of small team, aren't necessarily seen as, winning races or anything like that in your first year. So it was character building, I think, for sure. The first year I felt the kind of, real wrath of going from winning a lot to really not winning anything, to then know, okay, I know what I need to do. I know what, I need to work on between the team and myself. I feel like we did a really good job in the off season of being quite clear on that. And it kind of came together, fortunately, this year. Fortunately, otherwise I don't know what I would have done, probably retire early.
No.
Jamie, what is it, when you got the win, we always talk about people, you need to learn how to win, in sport generally. Was there a mindset shift after the day you won a race and the races that have happened since, as opposed to the ones beforehand? Do you feel different?
I walk around now as a race winner, a completely different person. Exactly.
Yeah.
In a way, but I've always, I don't know, every sports person's different, I guess. I've never viewed myself as being, every race I can win. I never think like that, and I never have done, unless I genuinely feel like I can win it. And I think coming into this year, I set myself, or two of myself and our team, we set ourselves a goal of winning a race, but initially I was like, okay, I'll be happy if I'm in the top 10, like that's what I'm focusing on. And we got to the first race and quite comfortably in the top 10, and then that kind of moved to top 5, and then ultimately when you do win a race, you can go, actually I can beat these guys on any given day. Yeah. Then suddenly you change your perception, and then every weekend I was like, right, I want to win every weekend, which is a sort of double-edged sword, because actually then the pressure or the load you put on yourself is much higher, the expectation's higher, but I think that was a good thing because it gave me that confidence to know that, I can do it on one day, so why can't I do it on every other day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Quite recently, you had your IndyCar test as well. How was that? What was that jump like?
It was very cool. The jump actually wasn't so big from Indy Next. It felt quite easy. Just transitioning into the car, there's a lot more going on in one sense, but actually the step wasn't huge. Especially the step from W Series to Indy Next was way bigger than the step from Indy Next to IndyCar. It was incredibly physical. We purposefully chose to do it at one of the most physical tracks. I am shooting for IndyCar, but I'm going to have to get a lot stronger again. But I feel like I know what it takes having done that test, and I think that's really important. And like I said, it didn't feel overwhelming in any sense. It just felt like, everything was just a little bit more refined, which was quite cool.
Jamie, that kind of sums up your whole career, even since I first met you when you were doing Ginettas at, where was that? Rockingham in the UK. If you've been there, it's a strange place. They tried to make an oval in the UK to try and replicate what they do out here. It didn't quite work, but you were fab there, and we met there, and it's been a long time. But all through your career, you've just taken it step by step. I've never seen you phased. But what you've actually done is outstanding, and you are leading the way for a lot of other women, girls coming through the sport going, you know what? I could be you, and that is a big thing for us. Do you realise the significance of what you're doing? Do you think about it?
Firstly, thank you. It feels a very long time ago being at Rockingham. I'm still sort of carrying the trend of ovals, but yeah, it's not something I think too much about. But there is more and more responsibility and weight that I feel like I have taken on board in the last few years, especially. And I think it's one of those things. You say I'm phased. I think there's a little bit of selfishness in that. Like, you know, I feel responsible to a degree, but also it's my career, and you know, I have a good race, I feel like that's great, that's on me a little bit. If I have a bad race, that's also on me. I don't necessarily try to think too much about how that reflects on sometimes a gender as a whole, but on the flip side of that, I feel like there's so much opportunity now for women in the sport, and I'm really excited by that, and I genuinely love what, you know, we're doing now, especially at the F1 Academy, all sorts of different initiatives. And so with that in mind, I feel like it's a responsibility I want to take on. It's a subject I feel like I know so well and can relate to so well, that why don't I try and make the most of that? And I'm really excited. You know, my career has kind of gone all around sort of the houses a little bit. You know, Formula One, I'm a little bit too old now, unfortunately, and the opportunity for me with, you know, where I am at ability-wise isn't quite there. But at the same time, I strongly believe women are capable of competing at the highest level in the sport. It is physical. It is physical, it is mental, it's all these different things, but at no point when I did my IndyCar test, at no point when I've driven a race car have I gone, oof, I'm a bit off the pace today, and I think that's because I'm a woman. Like, at no point have I thought that, and so really we just need to increase the talent pool, and that's the bit that I'm quite passionate about trying to create.
So that's exactly what sort of F1 Academy is trying to do, isn't it? Is increase that talent pool. We're not saying, you know, the first grid of drivers are going to make it to Formula One, but already we've seen so many more young women suddenly within the paddock, within the sport. What are you, because you work quite closely obviously with the Williams F1 Academy program too, what are you saying to those young women who are going into that championship, which has got a lot of eyes on it?
I think that's the toughest bit about it is, I think it's a double-edged sword, because on the one side, it's got a lot of eyes on it because there is appetite for women in the sport. People want to see it, otherwise they wouldn't have watched W Series, they wouldn't have watched wouldn't watch F1 Academy. Really, no other F1 or F4 series is being watched that much, but it is, and I think there's a positive in that in itself. But obviously, with a lot of eyes on it, you've got, so for example, at Williams, we have Leah Block, who is transitioning from off-road racing. It's a big sort of step for her, just in difference of racing style, but she is coming into it and she's experiencing her first ever F4 races with loads of people watching her, and it's challenging in that sense, but I think they'll learn a lot from that. I think what we need to remember is realistically there's a long way from where they're at now to ultimately getting a female driver to Formula One. I think really what we now need to do is utilise that platform and the visibility of that to try and encourage as many young girls to start in the first place, and that's the bit that's going to change, I think.
This is quite a difficult question, I appreciate, but on that, how long do you think we're going to have to wait to see a female, get to Formula One?
I get asked this a lot. I can't give you a straight answer because, you know, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, but I think what the main thing we need to make sure is, obviously, we all say this, they're there for the right reason. You know, they're there on merit, they're on talent. I love what we're doing with, okay, some people may think it's box ticking or whatever, but I love what we're doing where we're seeing, you know, female drivers get opportunities to drive these cars, female drivers getting the opportunity to be visible, because I think that's what's going to inspire the next generation of what is going to be the ultimate Formula One driver, and ultimately one day, hopefully F1 world champion. And so that's the bit. But I think realistically we are looking at 10 years, which sounds like a long time, but time goes quite quick. And I think if you think 10 years, you know, that driver might be 8 years old right now and have no idea that that's what...
It could be my daughter.
Exactly.
You never know.
It is exciting, isn't
It's
it?
going to be expensive.
I was going to say, I don't think the BBC pays that much.
Can I ask about Williams? You're obviously a Williams development driver. They're in a real kind of transition period right now, but it feels, from the outside at least, like it's quite an exciting time at Williams, and that they're building towards what maybe 2026, maybe soon after that, but something quite special. Carlos Sainz, of course, coming. What are you seeing in the background? What's happening behind the scenes at the team that gives you hope?
It is very exciting. You know, I joined the team in 2019, and I would say the last 2 years are the biggest kind of shift I've seen, and particularly the last year shifted the team so far. We're very focused on 2026, which I think is very exciting, and I think a big part of the reason why we've tried to pull Carlos into the team, and having the likes of Carlos and then Alex in the Williams lineup, I think is super strong. And a lot of that stems from James Vowles coming on board. I think his experience in a team that's won so many world championships, I think is valued for sure at Williams. And then it's also nice because we've got a bit of young blood with Franco in the team at the moment as well, and the energy that I think that brings to the team, and just his kind of nature of how he's kind of come into the team is definitely bringing in a lot of motivation. And we're definitely on a sort of turning point. And the exciting thing about that is the differences are so marginal from where, Williams are to where, Alpine, Haas, everyone is. It's so close. So, yeah, that's what we need really, that sort of shift.
Does that give Williams hope when you look at the current form and McLaren and the amazing way that they have turned around the whole outfit, I suppose, in the last 2 years? And this is a small team, relatively, that people love. And it's the same for Williams. And do you see that actually there is hope for a team like Williams because of what McLaren have done?
Absolutely. I think what you've got at McLaren, obviously, they're doing absolutely all the right things in terms of car development. The correlation between what they're doing back at their factory and what they're seeing on track is translating really well, which is something a lot of the other big teams are struggling with at the moment. So first and foremost, that's kind of a big tick. But then aside from that, they've got two very, very fast drivers, young, hungry drivers, which I believe Williams have as well. And culture is a big thing. Everyone you ask at McLaren, they're so happy to be there, and that was before they were winning this year. Earlier in the year, they just love their role there, and I think Andreas instilled a very great, happy culture within the team, and that filters through. Everyone. What I love about motorsport is you have two drivers, but then you have 1,000 odd people that work for that team in all sorts of different roles. But those people don't really work if, they don't want to win as well. They can't just be an engineer that's happy to process information on their computer and switch it off at 5 p.m. They have to have that hunger and desire to win to kind of filter through the whole team. So I feel like that's what McLaren have done a great job of, and definitely something James Vowles is trying to instill in Williams.
Right, I think it's time to go to your questions. We've done enough talking for a moment, so I'm going to hand the mic over to Harry, who's got some of the questions that you wrote down, but get your best microphone voices ready because we will be roving through the audience as well. So a microphone will be winging its way to you if you've got the first question to ask. But Harry, you've got some in the meantime.
I've got the cue cards in ahead of time. Let's start with this one from the Nora from Glasgow. Jamie, how does driving an Indy car differ from a Formula One car?
Great question. Sadly, I haven't driven a modern Formula One car yet, so you'll have to ask me once I hopefully get that opportunity at some point in my life. But just from simulator point of view, Formula One is quite a step ahead, I think. What we're seeing now at the pinnacle of the sport is incredible. The innovation, the technology, how fast these cars are, it's incredible. I was talking to someone the other day, only in, I think, 6 or 7 years, the difference in speed in certain corners is 40 odd kilometres an hour in high-speed corners, which is insane. So there's a big step in that sense. I think, obviously, the teams themselves, just the amount, with a Formula One car, you build the car from the ground up, basically. Everything's built in-house. Indy cars all spec, so all the cars are effectively the same with slight variations in setup. So there are quite a few differences, but it's getting me closer, so that's the main thing.
Shield or Halo? Which one do you prefer?
I tell you what, actually the shield, so for those that don't know, in IndyCar you have a windshield instead of what we see now as the halo, and it makes it very hot in there. You don't get any airflow. So we've got all these cool suits and different things to cool you down, which I think is something maybe we can look at bringing into Formula One. But yeah, for that reason, I'm going to say halo, because you get a little bit more airflow.
Okay, if you have a question to ask, I know there have already been some people putting their hands up. Would you like to put your hands up in the air like you just don't care? I want to see some hands. Come on, inspire me with your questions. The gentleman over here, first up, would you like to ask your question? Tell us who on the panel you'd like to ask, and ask away.
Jamie, I recently heard that a gentleman would rather die than accept team orders. How would you feel if you were Oscar Piastri leading the Grand Prix and Andrea came on the dog and bone and said, move over?
Honestly, I think it is so situational. Oscar, if he's got a chance of winning a world championship, and he genuinely thinks that he's got an opportunity to win a world championship, I wouldn't want to move out the way. But I think you've got to respect who's paying your bills at the end of the day. And it is a job. I think people forget that. And okay, it's a great job, but a lot of people say Formula One drivers are paid too much, and this is going a bit off topic. But I feel like, the pressure on them every weekend, what they're doing as top 20 drivers in the world is super hard. And I think at the end of the day, like I say, you are employed by a team and you have to respect if they ask you to do something, you have to do that. I think someone like Oscar, his opportunity is going to come around at some point. He's definitely world championship winning material. But yeah, it's going to be tough. Or it's going to be an interesting end to the year if that situation arises a few occasions.
Mark, you know a thing or two about team orders, don't you, in your experience in F1?
I mean, anyone remember 2007 at McLaren? Yeah, that was a difficult year. Yeah, it can be really tough, but it is, as Jamie says, sometimes the team, in fact always, the team have a lot more information to hand than the driver ever has in the car. They're so focused on doing the job they have to do and under so much pressure, whereas the team have the information from both cars, all of the data, and often a decision like the one we saw play out at McLaren, which was quite a complex and difficult, and it maybe wasn't handled in the perfect way on that day. There are so many layers to that decision. It's not just as simple as it often looks on the television, because there is a lot of information to be considered. The bigger picture of the harmony in the team, the bigger championship fight, there's all sorts that gets considered. So it's not an easy sport to manage, and also the big egos and the personal goals of those drivers. They're all huge factors in those what seem like simple decisions.
Right, any more hands up, please? That would be great. We'll get the microphone over to this gentleman. In the meantime, Harry, got another question?
Yeah, we'll squeeze this one in from Anita from Richmond, Virginia, for Jamie. What is your typical race day routine?
Good question. I don't have much of a routine. I don't have any rituals or superstitions or anything like that. Routine-wise, kind of same sort of thing each weekend of similar breakfast or same breakfast, same sort of warm-up procedure.
What do you eat?
Cheerios,
this has changed
Quaker
since
Pops.
being
Was
in
it a
America,
breakfast
actually.
burrito?
Yeah. So it's so funny you say that. It's not, but I love a breakfast burrito, and that's one of the great things about being in the States recently.
Me too.
Yeah, over in the States, I love eggs. I love putting hot sauce on eggs, which is another American thing. Just eggs and
Does that
toast
not
and
give
things.
you terrible indigestion when you're in the car? I can't imagine anything worse.
Really getting to the crux of
Yeah,
things on the checkered flag.
I don't know. No, it's not been a problem for me. But I do. Yeah, end up having sort of similar breakfast, like I say, yogurt and things. Nothing exciting.
Favourite type of egg?
Favourite type of egg. Favourite type of egg
In deep.
is actually this is random at the moment, a boiled egg.
Okay.
Soft boiled egg with soldiers. But
Nice.
they don't really do that here, so scrambled eggs.
I was so hoping you
Over
were going to
easy.
say quail.
Over easy egg here, is that
Over
it?
easy,
Do
yeah.
you know, one of the strangest driver routines that I remember, race day routines, was Alex Wirtz, who used to be part of the Williams team, but was also with us at McLaren, would only ever get in from the car from the left-hand side.
I hear that all the time,
But
so I don't
I remember
get
one
it.
time he stepped in from the right. He wasn't thinking. Got in from the right-hand side. We strapped him in, got him ready, and then he realised had to get out, go through the whole process again, and get in from the left.
Love that. Question down here. If you've got another question ready to go, and we can get another microphone over here to this gentleman. So, over here.
Question for all you experts. When was the last time that there was 3 British drivers on the podium? I know that you're going to tell me, but the real question is, when will we have it again?
Good question.
Was it
Harry?
Silverstone this
I remember.
year? Silverstone this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, George,
Hamilton.
Lando. Oh, no.
Lewis, George, and Lando.
There you go. Moving on.
I think.
We were there.
Yeah.
And what was the second part of the question, sorry? When will we get it again?
Will it likely happen again with the 3 major British drivers that we have?
I think it will happen again. When you've got such a strong form of British drivers right now, let's not forget we've got the current group, but also got Oliver Behrman coming in next year too. And I'm not sure he'll quite be on the podium straight away, but who knows? Haas are teaming up with Toyota. I know it's a technical partnership. We're getting to the nitty gritty of it, so I'm not sure he's going to be on the podium straight away. But you never know. But when you've got the British drivers with the top teams in Formula One, I think it's a pretty fair assumption to say they will get on the podium. And I think 2025 is only going to be an evolutionary year, so it's only going to get tighter within the competitive order. So I think it will happen if not before, well, maybe not before
This
the end of this year. No,
on.
I'll say
Could happen, couldn't it?
I think so.
but I don't want to put.
And I
I don't
think-
want. I'm not putting money on that.
I think it could easily happen.
Yeah?
Yeah.
In what order?
Especially round here. So last year, Lewis was really fast here. So I think realistically, Lando, Lewis, George.
Yep. I agree. Round of applause.
That would be a good race, wouldn't it? That means we've had a
Yeah.
good one.
That would.
Great for us.
It'd be great for the championship as well. Right, we've got one question down here. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Pat. My brother and I listen to this podcast every week. We really love y'all. Thank you so
Bless you.
much. And Ginny, it's just, we've been rooting for you. So hearing your recovery story, it's just so inspiring. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Harry Benjamin, you've mentioned a lot of highlights this season that you've enjoyed. I am very curious, what is your most memorable, whether positive, negative, whatever it is?
My most memorable. I mean, you know what? I'll give you. I mean, Lewis Hamilton winning the British Grand Prix was pretty sensational. That for us. I mean, obviously we are British, but at the same time, that race was just so epic with the weather and just the emotion of it, and Hamilton getting back onto the top step of the podium. That was, in terms of an actual commentary, a real highlight. A memorable moment, though, for me recently was in, and it's not really great. I'll call it character building. I was in Azerbaijan, and I was with the other team. Don't.
Oh, boo hiss boo!
I know. And
When he says the other team, he means Sky F1.
I didn't say it. Anyway, I went along to the press conference, which happens on a Thursday, and nobody was there. Baku, there's not a huge popular demand for the media there. It's just quite an empty press conference room. And I went along and I had a question lined up for Ollie Behrman. He gave me a good answer. And then Fernando Alonso was in the next batch. And I was like, okay, we wanted a line from Fernando Alonso on the team order situation that was going on between at McLaren. And he obviously knows what that's like, as we talked about in 2007, but equally, he's worked with Andrea Stella, and he'll give us a good line. I had this good question, I had it vetted, and I thought, in the back of my head, I was thinking he could really pie me off here, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. Asked my question, felt a bit long-winded, little pause, and he just went, no idea. And I was like, great, thanks, Fernando. And you can't come back because they take the mic away from you. So you can't come back. And then you're just left there like, cool, right, well, I asked for that one. And bless Tom Clarkson, who hosted it, tried to sort of follow up, but Fernando wasn't having any of it. So that was a memorable moment of mine. Character building, that's for sure.
I know some other. Should we do the panel? What was your favourite moment in F1?
Can you share some
covering it?
lowlights as well, please?
I think it was probably my breakfast burrito this morning.
What was in your breakfast burrito, by the way?
Egg, bacon, avocado, jalapenos, green chili sauce. It was just amazing.
Act.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Highlights.
Probably Silverstone, in all seriousness.
Yeah, Silverstone was great. I think this season, Silverstone for me was just, being British, being a British broadcaster, I was there working for Five Live as well. That was an amazing experience. In terms of my overall Formula One highlights, winning the championship with Lewis back in 2008 will never be surpassed for me, because it was just a personal, from myself and the team, was just an amazing thing. And, last time McLaren won a championship, 2008. And it's about to change again. I'm so happy for everybody at Woking.
I just want to come back to the question that we definitely butchered completely about the last all-British podium. 1968 US Grand Prix, and I take no credit for that. That's producer Joe telling me in my ear. My 60s knowledge definitely
It was
needs
qualifying, wasn't it?
improvement. It was qualifying in Silverstone that
Yeah.
was the all-British front row.
We all got ourselves very excited
So
because we thought it
1968
was
to
about to happen.
2024. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time. And I still think this weekend it could happen. Right.
I want it to happen. It'd be great.
This is what happens. They just leave me hanging. Just fine. You've made your point. That's fine. Everyone, I think it's time for us to say goodbye to Jamie Chadwick. So if you can put your hands together. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. Well, we have been talking a lot about the present day F1 and sometimes the past F1 as well. But looking ahead and looking into the future, there's a brand new series available on the BBC Sport website and the app. It's called the series is called F1 in 10 Years, and it's talking to people like Lando Norris, Stefano Domenicali, people who are the movers and shakers of this sport, to see what they think is going to happen in the next 10 years. It's fascinating. So if you haven't already, don't do it now, you're listening to us, but maybe afterwards, have a look, download it. It should be amazing, and hopefully you'll really enjoy it, and you'll have your own opinions of what's going to happen in the next 10 years. And on that, Harry, I mean, we know in the next 10 years you'll leave us, go to Sky F1, be the voice of Sky F1. You'll come up with your own tagline, but
Got my own tagline. Thank you very much.
you have, and you use it with us, which is very kind. But what do you see happening in the future? I mean, Jamie's already predicted 10 years maybe for a female to come into the sport. What do you think is going to happen on a more global basis?
Oh, that's a really hard question.
I know, we haven't prepped you. We haven't asked you for this documentary, obviously, series. But
I watched Stefano Domenicali gave a little chat about what's going to happen in 10 years' time recently to us. And that was quite insightful. I think the sport will change. 10 years is a long time, but also not a very long time as well in Formula One terms. So, I think we'll have a really healthy grid. I hope we see more teams and drivers on the grid. I really want the Andretti deal to happen. I want to see that opportunity. I would like 3 more teams in Formula One, really, like we had back in 2012, I think was the last time we had it. Not only because seeing all those cars going down to turn 1, it's just epic, but equally it gives more opportunities not only for drivers, but for people who work back at the factory, who work at the track side, and I think that would be a really strong and healthy place for Formula One to get to. The sustainability and the electrification. I don't mean we're going to be going fully electric anytime soon, but the hybrid technologies that we're using and that trickle down into the everyday road cars that we use is going to only ramp up as well over the course of the 10 years. So Formula One's relevancy will become more and more. I also think we need to have a race in Africa as well. It can't be a global sport without having a race in Africa, and there's a lot of talk about that at the moment. There's Kyle Army is sort of the obvious one, isn't it?
That's not happening.
But that's not going to happen. Was there talk of a sort of street track maybe in South Africa at one point? Or...
There was. Stefano's been down there a lot, hasn't he? He's been doing the visits, but it doesn't look like that's going to come off now, sadly.
Way.
Yeah.
I think Formula E do something there, but I don't know. I know that they're obviously going to I think the FIA gala at the end of this year is planning to go to Rwanda, and they are, I think, trying to get a race there too. So, I know Lewis Hamilton's incredibly vocal about it. So, I mean, there's lots of stuff I'm going on now about what should be, where Formula One should be in 10 years' time. So those are my highlights, I suppose.
Okay.
Rest of the panel, I don't know.
Oh, yes.
Here's my prediction for 10 years' time. It's a kind of a hope, really, but I think it could happen. I think the push towards sustainable fuels that we're having very soon, coming in, from 26 onwards, could lead to a point where we could get back to proper, loud, noisy engines.
V12?
Where we can run V8s, V10s, V12s again, because we're using sustainable fuels. And I'd love to see us get to that point where we can bring the noise back that this sport was so famous for. It pains me to think that the younger generations, my own kids, will never experience the thing that really grasped me and got me into this sport, which was the noise that came from 10 miles away and I could hear it. I want that back.
I think as someone who goes to a lot of tracks, I quite like the noise right now.
Yeah, I know, yeah. You can have a conversation with each other.
My hearing hasn't gone yet.
Beck, talking about how people get into F1, we heard from Jamie. I mean, you and I have both climbed a hill, I suppose, in terms of coming into the sport. How did you first get into it? Was it the sound from 10 miles away of 24 cars racing around? What was it that brought you into it?
It was very boring. My big brother.
Why is that boring?
Well, I idolised him, and I just wanted to hang out with him, and so I would just sit there and watch F1 while he sort of let me, and I would annoy him, but he would sort of let me get away with it. And my dad was very into motor racing as well, so it sort of trickled down through the family, and I just wanted to hang out. And I grew to like it. I grew to love it. So I've sort of ended up very, very lucky, decided fairly on in my career that I wanted to get into sports journalism, and thought, if I could get into F1, there aren't many jobs. You don't see many jobs, really. And have been very fortunate. A bit of luck fell into my career. Here I am. Sort of, this is my 8th, 9th season now.
Mark, how do you go about being a mechanic in F1? I mean, being a journalist looks like it's fairly easy in our world compared to what you had to do.
Well, it's I was genuinely grasped by that noise. That's what first got me into it. And then I was quite single-minded, but I just followed an engineering route. So studied engineering, and then I went right to the bottom and took an apprenticeship, old school apprenticeship, with a small racing team that well, not in Formula One, and basically in the same way the drivers climb the ladder, the motor racing ladder to get to the top, I kind of did the same thing. So I just worked my way up through the different categories, learning all the way and constantly writing to Formula One teams, being rejected all of the time, but kept going. And that's, I guess, everyone's story is a story of just never giving up, isn't it, to get into this, as it is in any walk of life. If you want to get to the top of anything, you can't give up.
What was the best rejection letter you got?
Well, I've got about 10 from McLaren before McLaren then gave me one that said, come on, have an interview. So I've still got them all. I've got a stack that big at home with the one letter on top from McLaren that said, OK, you can have an interview. That's the one that's still there.
I remember writing to a very well-known English journalist and asking how I would get into it. And I always remember the response was, just don't. Find another job.
Wow.
And I'm very glad I didn't listen.
Wow.
And I still have the email now.
Write an email like that to you.
Yeah, thanks, Benson.
Call him out. Who was it?
He's not going to say.
They're still a journalist, so I probably shouldn't.
Harry, what about you?
I started off by making Jenny Gow's cup of tea and coffee, and
Still
just
doing
being
it.
really nice. Still doing that. I was a runner, and the work experience kids I did Formula E bits. I put myself in as many different places as possible, hoping that one opportunity would take off, whether that was Formula One or Formula E or GTs or DTM. I loved DTM at the time. So one of those, and I was just hoping like sort of one day there would be an opportunity. And then I did get one, and it was to do commentary for the Porsche Super Cup, which supports Formula One at a lot of rounds. They asked me, have you ever done commentary before? I hadn't. Yeah, absolutely, of course. Yeah, ready for it. Thankfully, in Porsche races, they put the name of the driver in massive letters on the windscreen, so you can't go wrong. It's great. And I just did that at Porsche, and then that led to Formula 3. I did a bit of F1 Academy. I did a little bit of F2, and then an opportunity arose with Formula One, and the rest is sort of still going, really. But that was my route, really. What about you, Jen?
Is he any good at making a cup of tea?
Absolutely. I mean, do you even know what tea I have?
Green.
Yeah, see, there
She
we
doesn't
go.
have caffeine. No caffeine for Jenny Gow. No caffeine.
Yeah,
Really?
I try not to.
But
I'm hyped up enough on life.
We're all sort of four-wheelers here, but you did you start in two wheels?
Yeah, I mean, I've done most motorsport. I just love it. And I didn't have a brother who loved sport. I didn't have parents who loved sport. I just love all sports. And I remember being at home watching races, and you have to get up early in the morning. I mean, you guys know it more, being based out here. I mean, you get crazy hours to come and listen to us, which is excellent. But you do have to give part of your soul to motorsport. And if you want to follow it around the world, if you want to work in it, you make that choice and you just go for it. And it's determination, as you say, and lots of rejection letters. But I started in motocross and rallying and all sorts of things, ending up in MotoGP, did 1 year of that, and then found my way into F1. And it's just an amazing experience to be able to share, isn't it? I think that's the values that we all share, is that we're on and lucky to be on this ride, and what a ride it is. And one person who's had a phenomenal ride and been in the paddock, I think, longer than any of us, is our next guest. So I would like you to make a large round of applause for a former F1 team principal, a star of Netflix. It is, of course, Günther Steiner.
Hello.
Günther, thank you so much for taking time out to join us, because you have been a very busy man at the moment. What's going on?
I don't know. First of all, thanks for having me. What's going on? If I just would know what's happening, I'm the busiest unemployed guy around, so...
Whoever your PR person is needs a raise, honestly.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, no, I just listened a little bit to you guys. I have nothing to add here, You said it all, I mean, you were so well informed from these four guys that, I cannot add anything. And I was also to mention, you said, longer in motorsport and so. Yeah, thanks for making me feel old. Yeah, Jenny, thank you, appreciate it.
Well, it could have been worse. I could have said you've been in motorsport for as long as we've been alive, but that would be mean, wouldn't it? And we're not like that here. We're very welcoming.
Very nice people, yeah, thank you.
And you've got lots of experience to offer our lovely listeners. And I mean, you've worked in it for
In motorsport, in 38 years.
Wow.
I started in '86. You know, it's a long time, but I didn't start in Formula One. I started in rallying, but it's a long time. That is what I did and what I still do in some capacity. You know, different one, but it's always racing cars and motorsport.
And what was your first rejection letter? We've talked about it. Who did you first want to work for?
It's very strange. I've got not a story to tell you like this. My first letter, because I come from a place where motorsport is. My family had nothing to do with motorsport. Where I come from is in the mountains. Everybody skis and plays ice hockey, nothing else. So I always loved cars. And the strange thing is, I never thought I would get a job in motorsport. So I just did my national service at the time in Italy. You still needed to do national service. I wrote a letter. And I got a response. It was actually a letter. You know, a lot of people don't remember letters. You wait for 2 weeks. You send one, then wait another 2 weeks. You got one back. You know, so and they invited me for an interview and they gave me a job. I don't know I have no idea how I got there. So I didn't get a rejection letter. And afterwards, actually, I never wrote a letter again. I can write, by the way. You know, no, don't worry about that. But I never wrote a letter for. It just like once you get in, I think you explained a little bit. And when I started, I think I started before you guys, but it was a different world, motorsport, when I started. You know, in '86 it was like it was actually not it was a job, but it was not. Nobody tried to make a career in motorsport. It was doing something, you know, and then it started to get more and more sophisticated. And these days, I mean, you actually can study to be engineer. You can study, especially for motorsport at the time, that didn't exist. So, you know, I just got in because I loved racing cars, and I'm still here, you know. I didn't go away. They didn't get rid of me, you know.
They never will do, I'm pleased to say. So
unfortunately, just say it, Jenny.
No.
Joking.
The world of F1 is a better place for you being in it, and I honestly mean that.
Thank you.
Tell us, what was that first job then? What opened the door for you?
I was a mechanic at a rally team in Belgium. I moved from Italy to Belgium as a mechanic, and the team at the time, I think we were about 20 people. That was world rallying, you know. It wasn't, but that was the sizes were at that time. It was mechanic, and then just worked along. And then I went back to Italy because I couldn't stand the weather in Belgium anymore, and got a job there, and just worked my way up from team manager to technical director, and then I got into F1 in the early 2000s.
Can I ask what the biggest surprise was when you got to Formula One? Because World Rally is not a small championship. That's a fairly big, high-stakes thing. It's the pinnacle of that particular discipline. But I always think Formula One tends to be a step above everything else in motorsport. So what did you find when you first got into Formula One? Were there anything that really surprised you that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I mean, you're fully right. I mean, you think you're world rallying, it's sophisticated, you know, but then you come to Formula One, and that was early 2000, so it was already a lot different than it is now. But you just come in, everything is more, there is everything more, and there's more money. There is just like, and in a lot of motorsports, money regulates itself. You know how that happens. There is not more there, you know. Then you have to stop doing things when you have no money. But in Formula One, somehow there's always money to be found and to be spent, you know. You go in there and it's like, oh, we need to do more, we need more money. Then you find more money and you keep on doing stuff. And thanks God the budget cap came, in my opinion, because otherwise the sport would have bankrupted itself by just keep on spending and having no return. Now at least there is a return. But as you say, when you come into Formula One, I think it was the same for you. Everything is there, whatever you need it. If it is a clever idea which could make you go faster or be better, let's do it. You know, there is never, oh, we cannot do it. No. It's always, let's find the money. Let's do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ingrid, but so you're working your way up in the F1 world, and you're with Jaguar, and you become sort of the guy that is handing over to Christian Horner for it to become Red Bull. Can you talk to us a bit about how you ended up in that position and what that moment in time was like for you?
I ended up there. I knew Mr. Mateschitz, which is the founder from Red Bull. I knew him since since I think even before 2000, because he always wanted to buy an F1 team, and I got to know him when I was in rallying because he sponsored the rally team. You know, that's why I say motorsport, once you're in it and you're there quite a while, you get to know a lot of people, and he always wanted to buy a team. And when he was looking at somebody, he always called me up because we had a good relationship. And when he bought then Jaguar, I was not involved in that one. I was involved before when he wanted to buy Arrows, but not Jaguar. He called me up and just asked if I because I was in DTM, that's a German touring car championship at the time. He said if I want to join. And I went to see him, and he gave me the job, as technical director. And then Christian was there. There was a dual role. Christian was there and me. And then at some stage, they did open up a NASCAR team here. And they asked me to come over and start it up. He asked me, I remember we were at a ski race in Kitzbühel. And he just said, Gunther, if you got 10 minutes, I'm doing this, are you interested to do that? And I was like, yeah, it's getting a little bit crowded at Red Bull, it's better, sometimes, there was too many people coming in, and I was like, yeah, this is maybe not for me.
Few openings now, though.
Yeah. We need to be careful that there are not too many, that they cannot fill it up quick enough, No, I don't think I want to go back there, to be honest. But it's like, and that is how I ended up actually in the States. I live in the States since 18 years now.
What's been your favourite job you've had then over that period?
I think the favorite job is when I came up with the idea to do a F1 team here, then to do that job. Start a Formula One team. Would I have ever dreamt in my wildest dreams that would happen once? No. There's not many people have done it. And then, I don't feel very special. I just feel like very normal. And then I make it happen. And then when you do it, it's pretty cool when you do that job, starting from nothing, saying, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to build an F1 team. All right, then, let's do it. But I think that was the coolest job. But I must say, all the jobs I did in motorsport, I all liked them, some more, some less. But I never had a boring job in motorsports. And I always think if you like what you're doing a good job. I think if I would do a job which I don't like to do, I think I would be pretty crappy at it, So I don't try to do that.
We got the first C word. Luckily, it was crappy.
Do you know another one with C?
No, I don't know what you mean at all. I want to move the conversation on aptly to talking about Drive to Survive, because we all know how influential the series has been, not just in the States, but globally. It's changed the way people consume F1. And you and Haas were a major part of that. It came about as a kind of stroke of luck, because Mercedes, Ferrari, they did not want anything to do with the first season. They were not having it. So they had to find a new star. They had to find a new dialogue. And you filled that gap very well, Gunther.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us more about how that happened.
I think we have to explain here. No, I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't me. It wasn't me, because normally it's me when something goes wrong. But no, as you say, it was when it came along, when they presented to the F1 teams, we want to do this series. Everyone was like, yeah, whatever. And Mercedes, yeah, why should we do this? It's not made in Germany. Why would you do it? So Ferrari, it wasn't painted in red, so we are not going to be part of it. And by the way, the second season, they couldn't wait to be on it, We need to mention it as well. But it was because nobody actually knew what this will be doing. Neither did I. I'm not saying I knew. And you just take, when you're a small team, whatever you say, nobody listens to you anyway, so you just say yes. It's easier than to say no, and that's why we ended up doing it. And I think a lot of other teams were the same. Yeah, let's do it. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, we didn't need to spend any money, so it was fine, So it happened, and as you say, right time, right place, very good people doing it, in my opinion, and that's what happened, Unfortunately, pandemic happened, but fortunately for Drive to Survive, the pandemic happened, because a lot of people didn't know what to watch anymore, because they watched all the movies, there was nothing left, and they liked it. So it's one of these things. It's just as you say, it's very fortunate. For sure, people like Ian Holmes and Sean Bratches, they had a vision what to do, but would they have thought in their wildest dreams that this is what it is doing to F1? If they say yes, I think they're lying, but it happened, and I think, as you said, it was good but not only for Haas and for me, but in general for Formula One, and especially in the United States. We got a lot more people watching it, getting interested in and understanding what it is actually about. It's a very interesting sport, a lot of people, and not only 20 race cars going in circles.
I remember interviewing you in Australia at Netflix at its very height, and I could barely hear you because the fans were clambering over the paddock walls, just screaming your name. How have you found the fame that's come with it?
It's one of the things, and it didn't came from one day to the other. It ramped up a little bit. It's very strange when you're not expecting it. Or I didn't work to be this. I never got up in the morning. I need to be a movie star or whatever. It happened, and in the beginning, it's weird. The weirdest thing is when people speak with you at the street and they know your name, because then you think, do I know these people or not? Because I'm normally a polite person and I say hello. I don't know what, and then you realize actually they know you from TV. And then the second verse is when you've got my daughter at the time maybe was 7, 8 years old, and when people said, "Hey Gunther," every time, "Do you know this guy?" "No, Greta." And she understood that they know it from this TV. So it is weird, but in the end, if people like it, it's good for the sport. Taking a picture with somebody, there is worse jobs to do than that one.
Have you actually watched it?
No.
Not one episode.
Not one episode, and people. Some people don't believe me, but why would I lie about it? But I don't like, first of all, to watch myself in general, and then when it came out, we had an F1 commission, and everybody was speaking about this and me, and I was like feeling uncomfortable because actually the premiere was the day before. I didn't go to it, but I actually knew what was in there because I was there, obviously when you're on it. So I was like, wow, I don't really want to see this. And then I was thinking, what will my family say to this, and all that good stuff. It's like, I don't watch it. And I'm not an actor. An actor needs to watch himself to get better, in my opinion. I'm not an actor. I mean, if I watch myself and you try to do something different, then you put pressure onto yourself, and I don't want that because it's not my career to do this. This is part, this happened, and I'm good with it. And I had a very strange thing last week. I was in the UK on book tour because my second book came out.
Nice plug. What's it called?
Unfiltered. And in one of the radio stations, there was like a mix between a podcast and an interview. A guy was like, I show you clips of Drive to Survive and you tell me what you think. And he started to give me, I looked at the first one, and then I said, dude, I don't want to do this. Stop this. And I told him because I was like, I don't think this is fair from somebody, confronting you with this one. I just stopped it because I don't want to see it. I had no interest. It actually, I wouldn't say annoyed me, but if he would, and he was very polite. He said, okay, we stop it. He was very correct, because he could see that I wasn't happy, and you don't want me not happy, So, no, this is not flying with me. 8 things of this I'm not going to watch. And okay, that was it.
Sorry, Harry.
No, go on, Mark.
Well, has it changed the way you think about the future? You just said this isn't my career, but what about now? Like, could it be part of the future of your career? As in, we see you a lot now on television, maybe more than when you were actually working for the team. Are you enjoying that? Can you see a future where you're somehow in the media as a central role of your career, or do you see yourself getting back onto a pit wall at some point?
Difficult. All this media stuff again, like a lot of things in my life, came out of nowhere. When the Haas story was over, I planned to do a little bit less work. I've got my own company. I've got plenty of things to do, but I didn't want to be full time again. And then the next day when it was announced, people asked me, "Can you do this?" And then I overcommitted, and now I'm doing too much. Do I enjoy it? Yes, because otherwise I wouldn't do it. It's one of the things, it's like, if I don't enjoy it, I don't do it. How long I do, I don't know. I will decide that how we get on. I will not, a career in this, I'm not getting any younger. I'm 60 next year, guys, so I'm not hanging around here for another 20 years. So, but back in a team, if a project comes on,
Like an American Formula One team, perhaps?
Yeah. I said if a project comes on, which I'm interested in, yes, I would do it. But just to get the job, I'm not doing it anymore. Because in the moment, there's a revolving door in some of the teams. And I don't want to be in and out again because it's no point. I'm not going to work from 7 to 9 when you have no chance to do what you want to do, because somebody tells you how you should be doing it. And then you just do it and said, it's all gone wrong. Yeah, I told you. And then you're gone. Yeah. It's your fault again,
Yeah, it's a very high-pressured role and job and arena to be in F1, and I understand the pressures that also brings with it. I would really like to open up the floor to any questions that you have. So please, again, raise your hand. The microphones are roaming, and I'm just trying to clock who's raising their hand. That's a phone. It's not a hand. I need to remember that. So we'll get some microphones to you. But Harry, you can do your starter for 10, please.
Yes, our friend from the Cayman Islands, Tim, hello. For Gunther, what are your thoughts on the Haas partnership with Toyota and how much of the team's current form is based on the steps you took before you left?
Oh, deep.
I don't know the exact detail of the Toyota collaboration or sponsorship, whatever you want to call it. I think they're going to use some part of what they've got in Cologne, Toyota, where they built the old F1 car. So I think only time will tell how good that goes and what they committed to. I know they do some junior program for some young Toyota drivers, mainly Japanese. I think they needed to do that. So I don't know the exact detail of the collaboration. And the former, what they've got now, I'm not putting it down to me. I said it a few times already. It's Simone Resta was the technical director the last 3 years when I was there, and he just started at Mercedes beginning of the month. And last year, in June, we came together when we realized that the car with the old concept of aero didn't work anymore and we couldn't find any performance. It was decided to go the other way, and the other way actually works, So it's more down to him and the team, and a lot of the people are still there doing the car from that time. But it was mainly Simone which ran that technical team in Maranello, where they're developing the car for this year. So it's down to these guys. I mean, it's because a car is born. I mean, when I left, the car was already almost finished made, not only concept. So, but it's them people, and I give credit to him. And I actually spoke with him a few days ago, and we both can laugh about that, can have fun and be happy for the people which are there, because it's a lot of people which are there since a long time.
Absolutely. All right, questions from the floor here. Have you got a microphone? Oh, sorry. We had. I'll come. I promise. We'll do this gentleman,
and then it got snatched
Then
away.
we'll come back to you. I'm so sorry.
Hi. I'm fascinated by smells. What are the smells of F1 that speak to you? And smells get really deep in your brain. And what smells bring you back to the track or get you ready, get you pumped up?
Tires. The tire smell. A burned tire, it stays with you, and that.
Tires and brakes.
Tires. But the tires, when you get in, you immediately smell that there's racing going on. Nowhere else you can get that smell.
Right, I'm so sorry to grab that microphone so rudely away from you. Please,
Thanks for coming back to me, guys. Quick question for Gunther. Has Checo done enough to keep his seat at Red Bull, or will a strong form from Lawson spell some trouble?
I think if Lawson is good, yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear, I think you're going to enrage the Mexican fans this weekend with that. Next question, please raise your hand, sir.
So with all the different manufacturers, what's y'all's take on Audi and Cadillac? And I haven't seen Porsche. I'd love to see Porsche in F1. What's y'all's take on, will that hurt the sport, make the sport better, to have more manufacturers than what's there today?
I think the short term is good to have manufacturers. I think Porsche said they are not coming now. Obviously, we all know that Volkswagen is not on its best in the moment. They've got Audi. One brand is enough for them. I think Formula One, becoming the sport it has become, it is just so attractive as a marketing tool. It makes sense to have an F1 team, and that's what they're doing it. They're not doing it for the sake of it. They're doing it. It's a commercial background on it, and I think it's very good that manufacturers are in, as long as they are staying in it, because we had it before when the crisis came in 2009, 3 manufacturers left in 1 year, BMW, Toyota and Honda. And that's never good, because then you have to make the numbers up again for the teams which left. And that's not easy to do if you're in a crisis already.
Any more questions, please? We'll get the microphone over here.
I'll just do a cue card while we get to the next one from Pat from Austin for Gunther. What has been the biggest highlight and most memorable challenge since leaving Haas?
Oh, wow. Good.
Wow.
Apart from this, obviously.
Yeah. This is the most challenging. Yeah.
I couldn't sleep for 2 days before coming here. So I was so excited to come and see you guys. What is the biggest challenge? Getting up in the morning, huh? No. I mean, I always get up in the morning. No, I don't think there has been, after you've been running an F1 team, the challenge is obviously I always put the best in whatever I do. Sometimes it's not good enough, but at least I can never say I didn't try hard enough. That is the best I can get. So there is everything I do is a challenge because I always see everything. I want to do it as good as I can, and I'm never going anywhere or do anything just to be part of it, It's no fun to do that. For everything I do, it's a challenge, but there is not the biggest one. There is not one big one to overcome, in my opinion. I didn't have a big one to overcome in the time because after, I had and I still have a good career, so I'm not worrying too much about it.
Right, questions. We have Ferrari Man. I'm just going to call you Ferrari Man, sorry.
That's my actual name. You got it right.
I thought so. I recognized you.
Number 16.
So, as a team principal, if you were to find out that one of your drivers was participating in extracurricular activities such as an endurance race over a weekend,
I wondered where that was going.
Is there anything that at any point where you would feel like, or what you would do if you found out that one of your drivers was having external obligations that weren't related necessarily to the team or their performance for the team?
I think if they are contractually, because normally the contracts are quite tight, what they're allowed to do and what not. If they're not in the contract, you can have an opinion and you can tell the driver that you're maybe not happy with it. But in the end, the drivers, they normally know what they are doing. They, as much as sometimes you think, why did he do this? They are athletes, and sometimes letting them have giving them a little bit of leeway. It's good because then they come back motivated. If you restrict them too much, that is then counterproductive for a team because then they're unhappy. Make them happy. And if you think they overdo it, and then you say, hey, can we speak about this? You try to be in a good way, positive about it, but it's okay, but it's actually not okay. They get the message, when they don't do it anymore. And, they're also young people. I mean, I'm not only saying young people do stupid things. I'm old and do stupid things, But anyway, so it's also something you have to take it a little bit. In the end, as long as you see the guy has got, he's committed to the team and wants to do something a little bit on side, you cannot be too harsh because otherwise you create this animosity between the driver, the team principal, and that's never positive.
Sorry to just quickly pull up on that. Do you remember the Juan Pablo Montoya story way back in the day at McLaren when they had this in their contract that they weren't allowed to do motocross because that was particularly dangerous. He went off at a motocross event. Half the team were there. He fell off the motocross bike and did his shoulder and was injured and had to miss a race. But because it was in his contract that he wasn't allowed to do motocross, he told everyone it was a tennis accident. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember exactly. Because I'm pretty, but Juan Pablo. I mean, how can you manage him? He's a loose cannon. Yeah. JP is a loose cannon. I mean, it's like he will. I can imagine when he told Ron Dennis that he had a tennis accident.
Nobody believed him.
Yeah, Ron. I played tennis and I fall. And then I was like, really? JP, really?
That's exactly what it was like, yeah.
We have a microphone in the audience. Please go away.
Hi. Thank you so much for doing this. My race week doesn't start until I listen to the Checkered Flag.
Love that. Thank you.
Abu Dhabi. I'm kidding.
Oh, no! You opened a can of worms?
Yeah, no.
Don't do that. Right, next.
Who's going to get a race win first, Williams or Aston Martin?
Good one.
Now you make me look in the deep future because I think they're both a few years away, So I would say Aston Martin, to be honest, But with the new regulation, who knows who comes out in 26 with a good car? Could be anybody, It's difficult to predict. I mean, it's a guess, I cannot predict based on some facts because in 26 everything new cars will be played.
Thank you very much for your question, by the way. I just wanted to know, in your career, what's been the hardest thing that you've had to deal with in any role, any part of your career?
You try to speak every day with Gene Haas.
I don't think I want to do that. But thank you for the opportunity. But is there something that really sticks out?
No. There is, when I had to let both drivers go, that morning is not a good morning when you get up in the morning and, have to do it, and you need to do it one after the other. You hope you can get them on the phone, and you get yourself ready, and you speak with them. You have to be honest about things, and that's how it goes. But that was quite tough. Letting two go is like, and it will not be good for the team as well. It's not only bad for them guys, it's bad for yourself as well, because you lose two good drivers. It's not easy.
Have you spoken to Gene since you left the team?
No. And don't foresee I will in the future.
Very hard world that we all live in and love F1, but it has its downsides as well, certainly. Right, we need to wrap up shortly. So I'd just like to know what you guys, first of all, think. Who will win this championship this year? I want your voices. So please, if you think Lando is going to win this year's championship, give me a big holler. And if you think Max Verstappen is going to win this title, give me a holler. I feel like that's pretty much 50-50.
I'd give it to Lando.
60-40. Because I'm 60-40 that Lando wins. 60-40.
I've seen it everywhere. Once you speak, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Once you say something, it's written up in papers, it's headlines, everyone's speaking about it. Gunther, this is definitely your opinion, and it goes ahead of you almost, doesn't it? It precedes you what your opinion is. Is that weird? Knowing that that's your responsibility.
It is very weird.
Yeah.
Well, you're now the oracle of F1.
Join the checkered flag team now. Yeah, can you join us?
Yeah, please. For the whole weekend. But you can't swear on the BBC, in fairness.
I never do, Jenny.
No, I know. Beck, tell us your thoughts. What do you think? Who's going to win this title? How's this going to play out?
Well, I better back myself from what I said earlier, I suppose. I think I can definitely foresee it being Lando Norris. If it is, we're going all the way to Abu Dhabi. It's going to be really tight. I sincerely hope that it is not a repeat of 2021 and the FIA are not involved in deciding the championships.
Pantomime season already.
But go on, I'll back Lando Norris.
I think I agree, although I do think, as I said earlier, I think this weekend is kind of a real tipping point. If Red Bull's upgrade that they're bringing, which is big, if it changes the performance of the car, then it's a very, very tall order for Lando. He's got to take so many points off Max. He can do it because they've got a faster car, but only if the status quo remains as it is, I'd say.
And Red Bull, of course, today back in the headlines, accused of having this T-tray flexing, able to move. You can read the full story. Andrew Benson has written it up beautifully on the BBC Sport website. But that just adds an extra element into this whole battle. I think this weekend is crucial.
Yeah.
I can't say that word either. It's interesting, the words you find you struggle with. But it's going to be a pivotal weekend.
It really is,
when it comes to the championship. And if Norris can't turn around that gap and bring it down by a considerable margin, a British 1-2-3 would help him a lot. Then I think that it might be out of his reach without a DNF for Max. But let's see what happens this weekend. It's a sprint weekend, of course, as well. So that adds another dimension. Am I talking absolute drivel, or do you agree?
Oh, no, I'm engrossed. Keep going.
No, it's your turn.
I think Max Verstappen is still going to win the title. I do. I think, that's just what I think.
Where do you think he'll win it?
Oh, numbers has never been my strong suit. I think Qatar.
Ooh, penultimate race.
Yeah, I think Qatar. I hope it goes all the way down to the wire for everybody. But I just think that Verstappen has got. We said it earlier. We did a 5 Live on the radio just before this as well, and we were talking about how Lando Norris won Singapore dominantly over 20 seconds, but they're on his own for the majority of the race. But there were still 2 moments where he nearly threw it all away into the wall, and I just wonder, is that experience of having a car that can win and is now expected to win time and time again, or not having that experience, is that going to go against him when it then comes back into Verstappen, sort of the pendulum swings his way on that front? That's my logic there.
Okay, Gunther.
As I said before, I think Lando 60-40, in my opinion. I agree with you. Lando cannot make any mistakes because that will make him lose. And I think Lando needs a little bit of help from Ferrari to take some points away from Max, because Max, in my opinion, has also changed the approach. He's not as aggressive anymore. He knows the car is not as good. He tries to get, if the car is a third place car, he tries to be third. He knows. And he started that a few races ago, that attitude. Before, he always, if I don't win, I don't want to be here. I take big risks. So, but I think Lando will make it.
I just got one more question. It's completely irrelevant to this, though. There's one seat left on the grid for next year, technically, the Sauber Audi seats alongside Nico. Who would you put in? Who do you think's going to get it?
It's so difficult. After what I've seen from Colapinto, I'm impressed by that guy. I saw the name before in F2, but I never watched him really, but what that guy did in the Williams, he has got Alex Albon as a teammate, and Alex is by no means a bad driver. He's a very good driver. And what he has done, he's a rookie. He's a rookie, but he's already doing a good job. So that is the best what you want, And I don't know if they can get him or not because he's a Williams driver. I have no idea. But in the moment, I would, because if you put Valtteri in and give Valtteri another year, how motivated is Valtteri after this years and the car? I think the Sauber next year will not be a rocket ship, from what we see this year. So a young driver at least puts up the effort in, and he's doing well. And then you keep him a year, see how he's doing, and then you see if he's there for 26.
Interesting. We will watch this space, and you can, of course, listen to us on the Checkered Flag, and we will keep you up to speed with everything that is happening. Right, we are bang out of time. So, my thanks to our guests today, to Jamie Chadwick, to Gunther Steiner. Thank you very much to Rebecca Clancy, to Mark Priestley, and to Harry Benjamin. I hope you've really enjoyed this, our first ever live show of the Checkered Flag podcast. Hey! And what a great show it's been. So thank you very much to you guys for making it that way. And all that's left for me to do is say thank you so much to everyone for putting this together. It's been our pleasure. So thanks, guys, and bye-bye.